everyone, and welcome to our webinar this evening. Thank you for tuning in and listening. I'll be your host for today. My name is Railbookers, and I work here in the marketing department at Railbookers. And we'll also have a guest joining us today, Sarah Turner, who is also part of the amazing Railbooker team. She'll be telling you about the best 3 ways to see Scandinavia by rail. I'm super excited to be part of this webinar and inform you about all the amazing journeys that we provide. So why book with Railbookers? I'm going to tell you a little bit about us, but I hope you already know the most of it. We are a team of rail experts, or we like to call ourselves the self-confessed train geeks with extensive knowledge of the best routes and best timings of rail systems throughout the world. Our direct partnership with rail companies around the world mean we have special rates and special access to availability which is not accessible to the public. And by booking with us, you get complete flexibility, meaning you can book your holiday for 2019 or even 2020 when tickets aren't released to the public yet. And of course, tailor-make your fit to exact requirements. All you have to do is sit back, relax, and let us take care of the hard work. We know that with so many routes, trains, languages, and providers, booking a rail holiday can be confusing and stressful. So that's where we step in. All you have to do is sit back, relax, and get on board. How amazing is that? And all these fantastic reasons are why we have won so many awards. As you can see on the screen, these are just some of the companies we work with directly around the world, which means we can get the best rates and availability for you guys at any time. So these are the type of holidays we provide. As you may already know, we specialize in tailor-made holidays. So just let us know what works for you. Whatever it is that you want to do, whether you want to fly from your local airport or spend a few nights in a certain country, just let us know and we can arrange those. And of course, we specialize in scenic rail journeys. We will have a look at some scenic views today and we're looking at Scandinavia by rail. We also provide luxury and private journeys too, which is perfect if you're celebrating a big birthday, anniversary, or simply just want to travel in style. We also do city breaks so you can still travel around with us even if you don't have as much time. Whether you want to go to Amsterdam, Paris, or the south of France, come to us and we can arrange everything for you. You can be very surprised on how far you can get via rail in such a short amount of time. We also provide rail and sail trips. We have loads of customers who absolutely love a cruise. We can provide a rail holiday before or after a cruise holiday. Whatever you prefer, it's something we can definitely offer. We also do lakes and mountain trips for those who really want to soak up the views and scenery. Here you can see some of our top destinations at Railbookers, from Italy, Switzerland, Spain, Portugal, USA, Canada, and Scandinavia. These destinations are high in demand here at Railbookers and extremely popular. Italy and Switzerland, of course, offer some of the most amazing scenic journeys around the world, with beautiful views whilst travelling around, from the Swiss tourist trains to travelling around Florence and Venice. Spain and Portugal are very popular. After all the cold weather we've had in the UK, I'm sure everyone would like to get away into the sun. And USA and Canada. Whether it's a coast-to-coast trip around USA or the Canadian Rockies, we love to put together trips like this and let you experience it. And lastly, Scandinavia. Scandinavia is super popular because of the beauty, but also how fast it is to travel around Scandinavia because of the high-speed trains that run so regularly. In today's webinar, as previously mentioned, we will be seeing the best 3 ways to see Scandinavia by rail. And if you have any questions at all, let us know. I know loads of you have already sent in some questions, but there'll be a question box on the right-hand side which allows you to ask anything. If we don't get a chance to answer your question on our webinar, someone will get back to you as no question here goes unanswered. I will now pass you over to Sarah, who will tell you all about Scandinavia.
Hi everybody, thank you so much for joining us this evening, giving up a 45-minute chunk of your precious evening time to listen to us talk about trains in Scandinavia. Really looking forward to showcasing 3 of our most popular holidays, and definitely need to say, just to echo what Radhika said in the introduction, absolutely everything we do can be tailor-made. So if there is somewhere specific that you're interested in, or you've got sort of a rough idea of an itinerary and it's not like anything that we do on the webinar today, no problem. Just give us a call. We'll be happy to tailor make something for you. So we'll start off with a Railbookers classic holiday, the Scandinavian Grand Tour. And this holiday really does showcase the best kind of way to get up to Scandinavia by train, but also to combine the main cities of that kind of region into one holiday. And it's really, really easy to do. Start off, you can come down from wherever or come up from wherever your main local railway station is, link to London, and then catch the Eurostar across the channel from London to Brussels, connecting in Brussels to a train to Cologne. Each of those two journeys takes about 2 hours and you need a little bit of time to change. But apart from that, you can be in Cologne by the afternoon. The station is right by the cathedral. You can see there the bridge with the railway tracks coming right into the centre. You come out of the Hauptbahnhof, the main station, and you're right by the cathedral. So lots of great places to stay around there, great places to eat, lots of things to do. It's a great example of how rail travel really is city centre to city centre service. So definitely you can extend your nights there if you want a full day and night to explore Cologne. Otherwise, you'll have your night, have some dinner, a little bit of an explore, and then the next morning leave for Copenhagen. It's about 9 hours from Cologne to Copenhagen, so it's a fair bit of time, but it's a really nice, relaxing journey. And it comes in a few parts, which really helps to break the journey up as well. When I did this trip, so I did this exact Scandinavian Grand Tour back in 2014, I think, 2013, 14, and we did it by a sleeper train. So there used to be a sleeper that ran from Cologne to Copenhagen. It doesn't run anymore. But what you can do is take the fantastic boat train. It's one of the last examples in Europe of where your train literally, you board the train goes along the tracks, then it goes onto a boat before coming off in Denmark. So that's how you link kind of Germany and Denmark with the ocean. Once you are on the ferry, you can get off, walk around, have some time on deck, or have a seat and stretch your legs. So it really does help to break up the journey, and it's a really cool experience too if you're a bit of a rail geek like we are. Once you disembark the boat train, it's just a couple more hours on, and then you'll be in Copenhagen, which is certainly one of my favorite cities in the whole of Europe. I've been twice, once in the winter, so I went for New Year 2 years ago, and it was absolutely wonderful, and also in the middle of the spring, so in the middle of May, sort of this time, when it was lovely and sunny. So I've seen it from two sides and just fell in love with it both times. The station is right outside Tivoli Gardens, which is one of the oldest amusement parks in the world. It dates all the way back to the 19th century. It's not kind of an amusement park like we have in the UK. It's got lots of, markets and lovely restaurants and green spaces and lovely decorations, as well as traditional sort of rides that lots of local children will be scrambling to go on, and you can too if you're feeling a bit adventurous. But it is a really lovely landmark for the city and definitely worth a trip. The main street you can see in the picture there is called Nyhavn, spelt Nyhaven, and it's where Hans Christian Andersen's birthplace is, so you'll always see a little group of visitors sort of trying to take a photo there. From there you can also walk down to his statue, the Little Mermaid statue. You can take a boat trip out to see it from one side, or walk. It's probably just over a mile, I think, from Nyhavn out to see that statue. It's a nice walk. The whole historic centre is pretty walkable, to be honest. There's Frederiksstaden, which is kind of this Rococo district where the palace is, and there's lots of nice architecture, things to see and do around there. Your next stop will be Gothenburg. It's a 4-hour direct journey with first and standard class available, so whichever you'd like to do, it's completely up to you. The highlight of the journey is the Øresund Bridge, a 16-kilometre long bridge that links Denmark and Sweden. Cost billions of euros, or even more billions of kroner, when it was completed 15 or so years ago. And when we did it, everybody kind of stood up and ran to the side to try and take pictures of the train going across it, because it is sort of a marvel of engineering. So it is definitely one of the highlights of the journey. Gothenburg was one of the nicest surprises of our trip. It was probably the city I'd heard the least about when I did the grand tour, but it ended up perhaps being my favourite, certainly one of them. It's Sweden's second city. It historically is a really important seaport, so it's right on the water. It's linked by this sort of weave network of very Dutch-style canals, often called the Amsterdam of the North. And a couple of years ago, last year in fact, it was voted the most sociable place in the world. And we certainly picked up on that when we were there. It was really, really friendly. Everybody wants to chat, and there's lots, you know, really lovely atmosphere the whole way through the city, really laid back. There's a lovely huge park in the middle where you can relax, and about half an hour out. If you do have an extra day, I would say spend it in Gothenburg and take the train out about half an hour right to the edge of the archipelago. It feels genuinely a world away from the city centre. You can go, you know, that people will swim, and there's lots of lovely walks and really beautiful views that just feel so different to being in the middle of town. 4-hour journey from Gothenburg to Oslo, again, first and standard class available. Oslo is obviously the capital of Norway and a really wonderful city. The journey from Gothenburg was a real highlight of my trip for me. And I mean, I don't want to sort of oversell it. It's not touted as a scenic journey, but you go through tiny sort of villages and towns along the way, really nice quintessential Scandinavian scenery that you'd hope to see. As you pull in, we pulled in at about 10 p.m. because we spent the whole afternoon in Gothenburg. The sun was still up though, it was sort of just starting to sink. You go past a lovely sort of lake as you go into Oslo. It was really, really beautiful. Oslo itself is obviously famous as being the home of the Nobel Peace Prize. You can take a boat out on the Oslo Fjords, the surrounding lovely kind of fjord area. And one thing that we get asked a lot is, you know, obviously word is spread that Oslo is not the cheapest city in Europe, or not the cheapest city in the world. We get asked a lot by people, you know, what can people do to make it, you know, just, I mean, it's not, you know, gonna totally break the bank, but you know, what to ease it a little bit. And what we always like to say is, let us add on the Oslo pass for you. So you can add that on to the booking. We get really fantastic rates. And basically that gives you access to all the public transport across the city, but also 30 different museums. And it's all the big museums. It's the Viking ship museum with the full 9th century Viking ship in it. It's the Nobel Peace Centre, City Hall that you can see in the photo there, as well as a walking tour, a city cruise. It's everything you'd want to do on your first time in the city, and you just save absolutely loads, and you've got it all packaged in right from the beginning. One more direct train will see you in Stockholm. It's about 5.5 hours, the journey, a lovely journey. If you look at a map, it kind of almost looks like a straight line sort of right the way across Sweden. You get in, there's a couple of trains a day, so you can choose if you want morning, afternoon, evening, etc. We always leave those decisions to you guys. If there's multiple train journeys, you can tell us what train you want to get. We're not going to tell you, you know, you have to get up really early and take the train or anything like that. Stockholm is made up of lots of different bridges and islands and islets on its own little archipelago. The picture there is of the Gamla Stan, full of cobbled streets and these lovely ochre-coloured buildings. Stockholmers call their city the beauty on the water, and certainly the architecture is very, very pretty to look at. There's lots of wonderful sights to be seen in the old town. It's a really interesting city, I thought, as it sort of combines the best of both worlds. So you have that lovely old town and the old architecture and, you know, big open air museum and palaces and things like that. But it's also the second most prolific tech hub outside of Silicon Valley, just outside of San Francisco. It's this really modern, dynamic capital. So you do get the best of both worlds. And I think, and it's very, very easy to fall in love with Stockholm as a city. From there, you can fly back. You can take the train back, again, via Germany, perhaps stopping in a different German city en route. You can also take the overnight ferry that goes from Stockholm to Helsinki. So we'll have a little look at that a bit later on as well. Of course, we couldn't talk about Scandinavia without talking about the Norwegian fjords. And for many, this is their first trip to Scandinavia. But this is one of the most scenic holidays you could hope to take anywhere in the world, be that, you know, New Zealand, Canada, Switzerland. This rivals absolutely all of those scenic train journeys and all of those scenic holiday ideas. It's very, very popular pre or post cruise. A lot of cruises go in and out of Bergen, so we could certainly add this on before or after a cruise if you've got one planned. We've done that for a couple of customers recently. You can fly in and out of Oslo from any airport in the UK that you'd like to, or of course you could take the train up in the way we saw in the Grand Tour. But I'll get looking at the pictures rather than the map. Basically, it's a great holiday by rail, boats. There's a bit by bus as well, a lovely scenic bus ride. And it includes the Flam Railway, one of the most scenic journeys in the world. So you start off in Oslo. That's the first city on the itinerary if you go by the map that we've put together. Again, we will include in this holiday the Oslo card for you. It's all built in for you. That will make sure that you can see all of those museums and do a lovely walking tour and really get a great first impression of the city. It's a straight train from Oslo to Myrdal, where you'll connect with the Flam Railway. And if you've ever read an article called something like the 5 most scenic train journeys in Europe or the 10 best train journeys in the world, you've likely seen this before. It's always topping those lists. It is an absolutely wonderful trip, a real staff favourite here at Railbookers. And you just look at that scenery there. It's absolutely phenomenal, this journey. One of the steepest normal track railways in the whole world. It drops 2,824 feet in its journey, which is just less than an hour. You'll go through this amazing rugged mountain scenery, these deep valleys. You'll see the incredible waterfalls that you can see on the picture there. It really is, you know, there's no time to check your phone. There's no time to look away or get a bit of shut eye. It's about 13 miles the whole journey. It takes about an hour, and there is never a dull moment. There's always something to see. You can see there, you know, the waterfalls and things like that. It's just beautiful. It runs all year, so if you only have time to spare on holiday in the depths of winter, you can still do this if you want to. Obviously, given the long daylight hours, the trains are a lot more frequent in the summertime. The Flam Railway takes you in to Flam. That's you heard it here first, everybody. And we organise a biking dinner menu for you in Flam. And honestly, this used to be something that we just used to do for the staff here, because kind of our product managers had done it and they thought it was really fantastic. And when we sent people to Norway, we'd organise this. But gradually, they all started to recommend it to their customers, and we just got such amazing feedback on it that it's now a full part of our ultimate Norway in a nutshell itinerary. It's basically 5 courses of locally sourced seasonal food, together with beer pairings, so a paddle of beer pairings that go with them, and we get such great feedback on it. So hopefully you'll really love that. While you're in Flam, we'll also organise a trip on the UNESCO-listed Arlands Fjord on a heritage safari rib boat ride. The picture there of the summer safari that goes to Gudvangen and back. So you go all the way up on one bank and then you come all the way back on the other. So you're going to see, you know, different sides of the scenery. So it feels like doing the trip twice. There's stop-offs to see seals and porpoises and eagles along the way. Amazing opportunities for wildlife. And if you go in the winter, it's not quite the same trip, but it's equally fantastic. You can see the guys there bundled up in their scarves and their coats and hats. It is cooler, but you'll stop off in Undredal, a village with 90 inhabitants and apparently 500 goats. So it's an interesting ratio there. But you get to stop off and sample the local goat's cheese and local produce at little shops and really get this amazing quintessential Scandinavian experience on that. There's another amazing picture of the fjord there. And this Norway in a nutshell itinerary is a very, very famous one. It's very, very popular. And, you know, you do get to experience, as well as the Flam Railway, a bus and another boat ride and a train as well. So we do a ferry ride for you all the way into the UNESCO listed Nards Fjord. You can see that there's a ferry there on its way to Gudvangen, and there are new, very modern, eco-friendly ferries that run along this route now, and they're almost completely silent. Nothing's going to spoil the serenity of this for you. You can see the people in the picture taking their photos. It goes much slower than the safari rib boat ride. So you'll get to take all of your pictures. Then there is a bus to Voss where you see amazing waterfalls. And then you can take the train from there to Bergen, which is the last city on the itinerary. We include a Bergen card for you, again, to help with the sightseeing. So you've got everything you need, totally included. There's lots of museums and you can use the public transport. The best thing about it, I think, is the Florøbanen up to the top of Mount Fløyen. Absolutely spectacular views down over Bergen and over the fjords from there. You get 50% off that with the pass in the summer, or it's actually totally free in winter. And it is definitely something not to be missed in the area. So for our last itinerary, we will have a look at how you can use Scandinavia to get to other parts of Europe, to travel on. You can travel all the way up and through Scandinavia. We have been booking an itinerary similar to this for years and years and years, but we've put it on the website this year and we've seen it go so popular. Turns out loads of people have been looking for this their whole lives. It's a great itinerary that takes in, 3 Scandinavian capitals and then 2 fantastic cities in Russia as well. On the Scandinavian Grand Tour itinerary, we saw the trip up through Cologne, as the first stop in Germany, but you could equally do that and stop in Hamburg instead. It's a longer first day of travel, so it needs an earlier start from London, but if you live anywhere near, this is totally doable in one day, and it'll give you a shorter day of travel the next day. Hamburg is then a straight train to Copenhagen, actually one of our most popular itineraries for just twin-centered holidays is the Hamburg and Copenhagen itinerary, because that's really easy to do. If you wanted to add a couple of nights or an extra night in Hamburg to have a full day to explore, there is loads to do. Lots of lovely canals and parkland. The inhabitants call it the gateway to the world, Hamburg, because of its important sort of port heritage there. An easy train ride onto Copenhagen. You can see it there, more sort of wintry at night. As I mentioned before, I did absolutely fall in love with Copenhagen. It is very much the epitome of sort of Scandi cool, as they say. Their Scandinavian Design Museum is there, if that's the sort of thing you're interested in, as well as just loads and hundreds of cyclists in the summertime. It's a very eco-friendly city. In the summer, you'll see people swimming in the lovely waterways if you take a boat trip out. They call it the friendly old girl of a town, apparently. That's the translation into English from the Danish. But it's similar to Stockholm in that it's actually a really vibrant capital city as well. So you do get the best of both worlds. Wonderful places to eat, loads of museums, loads of history to explore, all within a very nice, friendly, laid-back city centre. No Gothenburg this time, though we definitely could do it if you wanted us to and add it in. I certainly would recommend that. Take the train up to Stockholm and, depending on whether you're there in the summer or the winter, there's a sort of an archipelago of 30,000 little islands and tiny islets that Stockholm is based on. So you can take a really scenic boat trip out that way. Or in the winter, there's so many museums. There's even an ABBA museum. So there we go. That's my tip, revealing my awful music taste. And there's lots of lovely cafes where you can get these huge, oversized Swedish cinnamon rolls. So it's a big capital. There's no good or bad time to go to. Well, there's no bad time. There's plenty of good times to go to Stockholm. From there, it's a direct overnight ferry into Helsinki. There's 2 different lines that run the route. The similarities between them, obviously, that really do far outweigh the differences. We can definitely talk to you about the options if you're interested in this itinerary. Either way, you're going to have a choice between inside cabins and outside cabins, different dining options on board and shops and restaurants, things like that. It's kind of like a mini overnight cruise, sort of, more than a sort of a ferry like you might be used to. The best thing about the journey is the incredible views as you pull right into the heart of Helsinki. Really, really lovely. So make sure you've got your camera ready for that. The capital of Finland, it's sort of lovely entwined inlets and islands with the Baltic Bay. And there's plenty to see and do with the amazing architecture that Helsinki is really, really famous for. It's got a very illustrious sort of fishing history. There's a museum dedicated just to that. That's one of the tips from one of our guys that has been to Helsinki a couple of times, along with fantastic green parks, really groundbreaking design that you can see around Helsinki as well. From Helsinki, it's just 4.5 hours on the Allegro train. It's quite a famous European train. It's a tilting Pendolino train that does link the two capitals or two cities in just 4.5 hours. St. Petersburg, no longer the Russian capital, though was for a couple of centuries, I think. It's very much still the cultural centre, of course. There's the Mariinsky Theatre for the opera and the ballet. The Russian State Museum is there. Should mention on that Allegro train, we definitely recommend an upgrade to first class, just because you get a lovely traditional complimentary meal included there as well. One of the highlights of this journey is certainly the Sapsan train, one of the most famous types of train in the world, up there with the Japanese bullet train or the German ICEs. And certainly it was actually based on the ICE trains in Germany. It's Siemens built, travels 250 kilometers per hour, a 4-hour journey between Moscow and St. Petersburg, which is supremely fast. The name translates to Peregrine Falcon in English, and it really is a highlight of the holiday. If you have a bucket list of trains, then I like you already, and this is definitely one to tick off of that. You'll arrive into Moscow. There's a couple of different train times a day that you can take, so we'll chat through all of those with you. Moscow, obviously the capital, right on the Moskva River. You can explore the Kremlin, the historic core, and then obviously outside the Red Square, Lenin's Mausoleum, the State Historical Museum, the wonderful St. Basil's Cathedral, as you can see there as well. So there's plenty to see and do. We're more than happy to help with different sorts of skip the line entrances and things like that for you as well. So that's just 3 holidays that we can offer. I tried to kind of make them the general holidays, the perfect first time itineraries for travellers to Scandinavia, the most popular ones that we do. But of course, our breadth in Scandinavia goes far, far beyond that. If you want to take the Polar Express from Trondheim to see the Northern Lights, best time to see that's between October and March, but we can certainly book that. We've got a new holiday coming because we're seeing it's really, really popular, taking the ferry from Bergen to Stavanger, where our product manager has just gotten back from, take a trip to Pulpit Rock and the scenic train back to Oslo. So there's absolutely infinite itineraries that you could do. And if you've got one in mind, please do let us know. We'll be more than happy to book that up for you. Just a quick word on scenic holidays at the end as well, because I figure that's kind of, as well as the amazing cities, that's what people love about Scandinavia, is the incredible scenery. And there is amazing scenery there all over Europe. So you've got the Glacier Express, and the picture next to it is actually the regular Via Rail train in Canada, the Rocky Mountaineer and the Gotthard Express through Switzerland to Italy. There's no limits to how many scenic journeys there are in the world. So if you've been to Scandinavia already, or you're looking for something a little bit different to that, please do get in touch. We'll be happy to help.
Thank you, Sarah, for letting us know about Scandinavia, and hopefully this has answered most of your questions that you had about traveling by train. We are still accepting questions, so if you do have any more, send them to our email, webinars@railbookers.com, and we will reply as soon as possible. All these reasons are why you should book with Railbookers for any holiday that you would want to go on. And if you haven't got our brochure yet, head over to our website, www.railbookers.co.uk/request-brochure, and we will get one out in the post for you. Some of our best holidays are in this brochure. However, not all of them are listed. Remember, we do tailor-made holidays, so they can be as unique as you want them to be. You can also visit our site and search destinations to see what else we have on offer. And if where you want to go is not on there, you can simply give us a call on 0203 780 2382 and we'll be more than happy to help. Thank you to everyone who has joined our webinar today. However, there can only be one winner from today's webinar who will win a massive £50 off to spend on their next rail holiday. The winner of today's webinar is Vince Negri. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Well done, and we'll be in contact on how to claim this, so keep an eye out. Once again, thank you for attending our webinar. Absolutely everyone who tuned in today will get £25 off their next rail holiday. Let us know either via email, phone, or contact your local travel agent when you want to redeem this, and we can get that all booked up for you. Don't forget to quote RB Web May to use this great offer. And when you're ready to book, you can get in touch with us via telephone, which has been displayed at the bottom of the screen on 0203 780 2382. Or alternatively, you can pop into your local travel agent, who I'm sure would love to help. We will now move on to answering some of the many questions we've received. There's so many to choose from. Let's have a look. So, Chloe would like to know, how flexible are our itineraries?
Hi Chloe, thanks for asking a question. Thanks everyone actually for asking a question. It's always great to see so many questions, and all the ones we don't get around to. Our team love getting in touch and answering those. So please do keep them coming, And I've just said all of that, and I've forgotten Chloe's question. It was about how flexible our itineraries are. Sorry, Chloe. And the answer is they are totally flexible. I mean, whether it's kind of, you know, tailor making it, and we do always say you can tailor make any itinerary, and that can mean anything from adding on a couple of nights in a different city, stopping off en route, spending an extra night in Gothenburg because you think it looks lovely there, or upgrading to first class, doing the trip in reverse, flying from your local airport. We can do all of that. But flexible tailor-made itineraries also mean that if you've got an itinerary that's in your head that you want the professionals to bring to life, and you know exactly what you want to do, we can create totally bespoke itineraries. And indeed, we absolutely love to do that. So you're certainly not limited to the itineraries that I've spoken about on the webinar, though they are all great. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you, Sarah. And Amy would like to know, when's the best time to travel to Scandinavia?
Hi Amy, that's a fantastic question and a tricky one to answer, because there's probably not really any best time. It's certainly all of the itineraries that we've looked at today, there's no train that can't be taken, you know, during certain months. You can take it in the middle of the winter, you can take them in the middle of the summer. It's worth keeping in mind the daylight hours, as they can be very short in the winter in Scandinavia, but they're wonderfully long. I said I was there in May, and it was, you know, it was light at 10:30, 11 p.m. It really was. It was absolutely wonderful to kind of eat your dinner at 8 and feel like it's 3 in the afternoon as you sit outside. Lovely and warm too. And in places like Copenhagen, you know, it's not going to get dark at, you know, 1 p.m. or anything like that. It's not quite so severe as it is right up in the north. The trains run more frequently though because of that, with the long daylight hours, and trains like the Norway in a Nutshell journey will. But, you know, Copenhagen to Gothenburg or Oslo to Stockholm, those are regular trains. You know, in the cities that are primarily capital cities, they're going to be much quieter with tourists in the winter time, and nothing closes, you know, nothing sort of closes down for the winter season or anything. These are definitely cities you can visit all year round. The rates are obviously fantastic in the winter as well, if a bit cold. The cities are a bit cold, but take your scarf and you'll be fine.
Great, thank you, Sarah. I think we have time for one more.
Yeah, go on, one more.
Let's have a bit. Billy is asking if there is a different way of coming back instead of flying.
Hi Billy, yes, there is. I don't actually know which holiday you're looking at, or if it's not one of the ones that we've looked at today at all. But I do know that the answer is yes, because any of our holidays in Europe can be done by train instead of by plane in both directions. And almost always we'll be able to find a different way back for you as well, whether that's coming back from Copenhagen and stopping off in Hamburg one way and Cologne the other way, because you do have to travel back through Germany. Or if you're coming back from Moscow, there's quite a few different ways to get back. You can go all the way through Central Europe, through Belarus. You can take the Paris to Moscow sleeper train. It takes a couple of days. It's a really wonderful journey. If you're traveling back from sort of Stockholm and Oslo, you just, you know, kind of break up the journey in different places on the way back to how you did on the way out. We are Railbookers. You never have to fly if you don't want to, though we obviously know that sometimes people prefer to, you know, sort of have the lovely journeys on the way out, and then at the end of their trip just fly home, as it's the quickest way. But it's totally up to you.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Thank you for listening once again. Remember, you can book by calling 0203 780 02382 or popping into your local travel agent. We are open Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Thank you once again for listening, and we hope to see you soon.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you a little bit about Scandinavian rail holidays. See you on our next webinar.